Hello, and thank you for joining for today's scene. I'm Elijah Smith-Ayton. I'm one of the young programmers at BFI Film Academy. I'll be speaking to Max R. Lincoln about his brilliant short Bag for Life, which can be found in the description below. Max is a talented director whose horror shorts have won him awards at Manchester Film Festival, Atlanta Underground Film Festival, along with nominations at the British Short Film Awards. In this scene, Max and I will dive into Bag for Life, a horror short created for the Straight A competition, and connect it to the current season of Beyond Human, where we explore films that feature non-human subjects to reveal insights about ourselves and our world. Bag for Life perfectly fits this theme, following a jealous, unloved shopping bag seeking revenge. The film blends the absurd plot with nods to classic B-movie horror, and despite its outlandish premise, Max skillfully adds a comedic touch to the animated shopping bag, by sort of like reinforcing the film's title. The connection heightens the film's sinister tone, especially as the bag ultimately enacts its grim revenge. So yeah, I'm really honoured and very excited to welcome Max today for the interview, so our scene interview. So hi
Oh, thanks
Max,
for having me.
how was your day? How are you doing?
Yeah, no, good, thank you. I've just started the edit of my next short, which sadly doesn't involve any bags, but it does involve
Oh,
some strangulation. So, there's like a tonal continuation.
yeah, a theme there. A theme. All right. Yeah, so I say first question, could you explain what Bag for Life is, what it's about, and how the idea came to you?
So, Bag for Life, I would describe as a psychosexual thriller. I was inspired by movies like Basic Instinct and the kind of the erotic thriller and how ridiculous and intense they can be. Like sometimes they're so sexual that they're not even sexual at all. And then I really like the idea of um, they don't really call them bag for lives anymore because it means a shop would have to give you a new one whenever you wanted to repeat it. But the idea of a bag for life, which weirdly doesn't transition out of the UK because people call it different things, but I really like the idea that the bag was yours for life, and if you tried to get rid of it or abandoned it, it would come after you, leading to your death. And there's the Straight Eight competition, which I'm a big fan of, and I'd made two of them before, each exploring a different subgenre of kind of horror or adjacent to horror. Um, and I really like the idea of I thought I was kind of I do mind maps to kind of come up with ideas for things when it's a straight out competition, and generally I find it easier to work visually by mapping things out like that. And I just love this idea of this bag. Anyway, so the competition, you get one roll of Super 8 film, which you buy yourself. You edit in camera, so any mistakes and anything you get wrong is printed on the film. You send it off having never seen it, and then you create a soundtrack blind, having never watched it, and you really hope that they connect. And so Victoria, the fantastic composer who did this one, she also did the other two, and so it was nice continuing the collaboration with her. Most of the rest of the other team was new though. Yeah, so somehow the sound worked. On the whole, yeah, basically what you've seen is pretty much the exact thing. I did do one tiny cut, which I must say I did, but it was only because I wanted to set fire to a bag, and as I chucked the matches, the matches went out, and it was so painful that I had to fix that. But anyway, apart from like 1 millisecond of a cut, everything is shot in camera pretty much.
Yeah, I saw all your other films linked to the competition as well, so you obviously have a lot of experience there. I think later on we'll sort of discuss what you enjoyed of it, what you maybe didn't enjoy, and what
Yeah.
if any young filmmakers should do the same. But we'll get to that. But yeah, for my sort of question after that, echoing back to our current theme of Beyond Human, where me and my other young programmers are looking at films about non-human protagonists or antagonists in this sense. Why do you choose the imagery of an ordinary shopping bag as the antagonist of your film? Because I don't think I've seen a film before which uses something very ordinary and it makes it so twisted and evil. I thought like
Yeah.
it's obviously very funny, but it is very sinister as well. So
Yeah,
why
totally.
why
I
do
mean,
you use
there's
that
a film.
imagery?
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I mean, there's a film called Rubber, which was a good reference, which is about a telekinetic tire that comes after revenge. But and tires are pretty sinister. But there's something about bags, much like birds in the birds, like you kind of have bags everywhere. Like you're constantly being given bags by people, and they live under your cupboards, they live in your, yeah, they're everywhere, right? And plastic waste is a huge problem as well. But I like the idea of it being, rather than a plastic bag, it being like an actual reusable bag. So one of those kind of like fabric, like a fabric tote that, again, for a long time, people, and they still kind of do, were giving away a lot of like free totes at events and things. It was very much like the thing. But then what do you do with all these tote bags? It's like the same thing. Suddenly you got like a billion tote bags. And so I was trying to combine that idea with like a very soft touch green element to it. But like I just wanted to do something quite fun. I love puppets. Puppets are great. Um, I have had the pleasure of, in my other life, I work as a production designer for mostly commercials. And through there, I've had the pleasure of working with many puppeteers, and it's just always so fun, and I really wanted the opportunity to do it. So Talk to the Hand is a brilliant puppet company, and I talked to them about doing this, and sadly they weren't able to be there, but one of their colleagues, Anna, came and puppeteered the bag, and yeah, it was just great. Yeah, more puppets would be great. I'm all of the puppets. Sorry, I got a bit, I kind of went off
No,
on a,
it's great. I think it links to my sort of next question of what
yeah,
was the sort of method in animating that bag, because it's quite seamless, to be honest. Like when you watch the film, like
yeah,
especially because you didn't know what the film would have looked like when sending it off. When
yeah.
watching it, it's quite seamless. You can't really see like ways of the puppetry of it all. It's very hard to notice. So what was that?
Mm.
What was the method, and how did you make it into a character in its
Yeah.
own?
Well, I think Super 8 really helps for that. So because it's smaller and it's grainier, like in the grain you don't really see like a fishing wire, or we had, I think it was more black thread than fishing wire we were using. But as a result, it kind of like blends in with the pixels, which is brilliant. But one of the biggest challenges was like how to make a bag sexy. Like what's erotic about a bag? And I thought about this for probably longer than needed, but like I, I basically I was like trying to think about, is this really hungover dude? All he wants to do is like eat some crisps, and like then he's a bit rude and he just abandons his bag. But like the bag had to feel like it had had this like sexual moment to connect it to the human, played by Victor Ali. And yeah, so I just thought like rummaging through the bag, like the act of rummaging in a bag to the bag is probably fairly like sexual. Anyway, so like he rummages in the bag for a little bit longer than anyone probably ever would. And then he then has his food or whatever. And then I just thought it'd be quite funny to like continue an old trope of the guy then smokes a cigarette after rummaging through this bag, which I just thought was kind of like a nice little nod to the idea that they'd had some form of sexual relationship. Uh, and then through a very clever piece of, I think it was again black thread that was, I think the thread's under his, over his leg or under his leg. And Anna, the puppeteer, was basically just literally hiding behind Victor on this bench. And she pulls the handle along, and the handle just lightly strokes his leg, which I think is my favorite part of the film. It's super weird, but like it kind of sells the idea really. Um, yeah, so that was a lot of fun, and Victor was a great sport as well. Yeah,
So, also as well, going back to sort of straight eight, you've produced films with them before. So, what's your experience in creating? Well, particularly this film, but I guess it could apply to other films you've made for them. What was your experience in creating a film for the competition? And
yeah.
would you recommend this to any young filmmakers who trying to like get a foot in the door, trying to
Yeah.
be known?
I mean, firstly, I would definitely recommend the competition to new filmmakers, and older filmmakers, anyone really. So you pay fee, your fee covers the costs of them, like scanning and doing all the kind of like the film stuff. I don't know, my mind's a little bit melted, but like basically all the developing process they basically cover. And then if you get into it, then they do a big premiere in Cannes, and also a kind of less big but still pretty big, they're both big, premiere
Yeah.
in London. And Yeah, basically what's great about it is my other shorts, maybe my arguably more normal shorts, um, they're they take ages. Like the most recent one I'm doing, we were developing for about a year and then we had to raise money and then it just like takes forever and it's really boring and exhausting. Whereas the straight eights I've done, all three of them, I've more or less gone from start to finish in under a month. Like I've come up with the idea. Yes, sure, I've been thinking about things loosely, but I've more or less just like created it then. I'll always like set a date in my diary, and no matter what happens, we're filming then. Like, yes, actors might pull out, you might lose cast and crew or whatever locations, but like it just means that it happens. And then suddenly, as soon as you could get a composer to create this, you now have a film. Um, you have to wait for the competition to be over to see it, but like you've done something suddenly.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's shot in camera and mistakes are expected, it just means that you can like it takes away a lot of the pressure of like being a perfectionist and making sure that this film is like the one that changes your career or gets you onto the next thing or like, as much as I would love all of those things, each one of those films I've made have all just been fun experiences because I enjoy making films and I wanted to like test out fun ideas. Like the first one's about murdering people with the same name as you, which is inspired by there's another Max Lincoln who's a gay porn director, and I've always wanted to beat him in the Google rankings. Like I finally think I've beaten him, but only because he's I think retired. Anyway, don't Google him because it adds to that. But anyway, so it was like about murdering people the same name as you, and it's called There Can Only Be One, inspired by Highlander. And then the second one was a 60s set sex sacrifice short. And like that I just really wanted to experience like doing like a period piece. And I was also quite into some occult ideas at the time, and I wanted to do some form of sacrificial ceremony, but I didn't I just didn't want it to be another girl having this experience done to them. I wanted to kind of, you know, do something a bit different. Anyway, like whether all three of them work or don't work, they've all been really great experiences. I would say that each time I've made a massive error, but like I've fixed that error when I've done the next one and then I've done another one. For
Yeah.
example, on the very first one, I forgot the fact that the actors need to be moving before the camera's rolling because otherwise you have this like weird stop start. The second one, I forgot that on the left of the frame records more information than you can actually see in the viewfinder. So like there's like a camera leg, there's like a makeup person's jacket. And then the third one, I can't remember, but some other weird abstract Super 8 related mistake, but all good fun. Yeah.
I think you bring up a good point. I think a lot of young filmmakers might struggle with that perfectionism of make sure this their first film is the best. They put the most effort into it, or they've brought their best ideas. But I think you're right. It's a good opportunity for any young filmmakers just to get in there, get your idea just out. There's errors, but most films I've seen from a competition look still really good. They are great films by itself, even in the little runtime. I do think it's probably a great opportunity for younger filmmakers. But I think maybe also going back to it, it's like how challenging was creating this film with the rules of no editing, no retakes, no post production. How challenging was that, and how do you sort of like overcome it?
The biggest challenge for me is time. So the first one, the first one, there can only be one. I ran out of time at the end. Like I wanted to do this like uh, e- so something happens at the end, which I won't spoil, but basically like I wanted it to get like weirder and weirder and more crazy. And I decided it'd be really fun to like shoot through one of those like orbs that you touch and electricity goes through. I was just kind of going into like a bit of a weird spiral down the end, but it'd been a very long day. Anyway, the second one, I got the timing more or less like exactly right, but the third one, Bag for Life, I totally under-timed everything because I was really worried that we had a person, Chris, who was working in the camera team who did a great job, timing things, but I just because you even though you think you got the time, I basically just like under planned how much we could shoot, and there could have been like easily an extra maybe 2.5 or 3 shots in there, but you can't go back and change that. And it got to this point where the couple are lying dead in the bed, and this bag is stroking his face, and I was just like, well, I just guess I'll just keep that going then. And then yeah, the bag's stroking his face for what feels like a minute, but it's probably only like 20 seconds. But it just adds to the humor because it's super weird and it's not something that like I would ever normally do. In one of my other films, I would just cut that because that's like bizarre. But actually, it just like because it's like the competition like lends itself quite a lot to humor because it just naturally like things are funnier on film sometimes, or like have that B movie aesthetic. Yeah.
I mean, I think also might sort of relates to my next question of if you had no restrictions, you had no competition restrictions for the film, what would you add or what would you change, remove? Just what would you change about it to be what you really want?
Totally. I think the opening is a bit too short in the sense that like we don't really understand this guy. He looks hungover through makeup, but like I don't feel like if I wasn't me, I wouldn't necessarily like get as much that like he's just a hungover dude who just really wants to have some like crisps and a cigarette or like whatever he wants. Um, and so I'd like add a bit more exposition there. I'd also like there was a slight subplot which pretty much probably no one has even noticed, but like him and his, let's call her his girlfriend, they're walking and she's holding a bag which she gives to him, and so he's carrying this bag. And for me this was like a huge betrayal for our bag for life, because like not only has he abandoned him, he's now holding another bag, and that's why they set fire to this paper bag. But I feel like as much as that's like a really fun beat, it just needed more breathing space.
Mm.
Uh, and then yeah, just like more the bag watching them being creepy. I just think I could watch that for hours. It's just like super weird, but in the best way. Yeah.
And um would you still use Super 8 if you was going to change it, or or would you use digital cameras? Because you don't obviously use film for every single project you're making. So would you still keep that Super 8 aesthetic, or would you decide to
I
change that
mean,
up?
I'd love to keep shooting it on the Super 8. I think like what would be really cool is doing like a double straight 8, like doing two film canisters worth, but then it just because I think because of the if you're like getting people to help out as favors, or like you're just like pulling in anything you can get hold of, filming like 3.5 minutes in one day is totally doable in multiple
Mm,
locations. If you're doing that level of work on 2 days, it suddenly becomes like a whole full project.
yeah,
But no, it's in short, yeah, I definitely still shoot it on film. If somehow it became a feature, like it probably would have to be digital because we just wouldn't have the money to do it.
yeah.
But like that would be a shame. But yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to do an expanded version. It's not something I really thought about much, but um, yeah,
I sort of feel as well you've got long experience in directing a horror, and even won the best horror short for your latest project. Um, how does Bag for Life stand out to the other horror films in your filmography?
yeah, I guess it stands out in style. Like I'm very visually motivated, and I really love actors, and I really love creating like a look and a world and stuff. And what I liked about Bag for Life is that it kind of has it's got quite a strong overall aesthetic, but it's also yeah, there's some I don't really know how it stands out differently. I guess it's just like another I guess I kind of have like maybe three wings of my work. I've got more of like my more conventional drama-y type stuff that even if it's a bit more horror in some places, then I've got my like weird Super 8 films, and then I've got slightly more like um abstract stuff. But yeah, I'm kind of like going around in circles. I'm not really sure. It's just a fun
All
film.
good, all good. Also as well, I mean, you've been directing horror for like 12 years, I think, you said.
Mm.
What advice would you give to young filmmakers in making their first horror short? What would
Yeah.
you sort of recommend to them?
So like I first started out not doing horror when I graduated. I was doing more drama, but it was always like heightened drama. And then like some of it had some horror elements to it. And I basically realized over the course of making things that what I loved about horror was that you can kind of do everything really. Like, as in, you can do a drama that's a little bit funny, and then people are like, it's not really a comedy, it's not really a drama. Whereas in horror, it can be a little bit funny. It could be like really serious. It could be all that you can kind of play with tones a lot more, and it's a lot more forgiving in terms of like the genre wrapping around it, which I really like. Um, so yeah, I would say that horror is a great place to experiment. I think in drama, you're often like encouraged to do the most like sad, depressing thing ever because like that will get you feeling emotional, and that's cool. But I think that like for me personally, there's enough sad, depressing things out there anyway. I'd rather do things that are a bit more fun and weird. Though saying that, my most recent short, which I'm editing at the moment, is a little bit more depressing. It's about alcoholism and demonic transference. But I think even though I've tried my very hardest to make a serious film, I think it still naturally has some humor in it. Um,
Mm.
it's just like a less obvious amount of humor.
Um, Also as well, sort of going back to the sort of imagery and the visual aesthetic of the film, was there anyone on the crew who was particularly helpful in shaping that visual aesthetic for Bag for Life? I mean, it could have been the Super 8 film itself, because that just has a very strong aesthetic, as they say do
Yeah.
already, but like a cinematographer or anything like that, which contributed to that. I think it's quite a stark visual aesthetic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like Johnny the cinematographer did a brilliant job, and all the rest of the team did a fantastic job with makeup and costume as well. So I dressed it in terms of the space using my art department experience. But yeah, I mean, like naturally, just the, as you said, like the Super 8, just like it gives this glaze over the top of everything, and it just makes things, at least in this scenario, more interesting.
Yeah,
Um, I also at the time had a really great set of like black and white bedding where and it just looked really cool on camera. I also from the previous Super 8 film, I bought all of these like crazy fun candles. Like and I got given a silver rhino as a joke gift and I burned a candle into it. So the rhino was like a kind of a triple candle. And then yeah, some other things. So yeah, just like weird candles. I don't know, but yeah, it was very much a group effort. But the
right.
the Super 8 does help a hell of a lot, I think.
I mean, yeah, I mean, even following from that, I mean, I can tell that you've got such strong attention to detail to the aesthetics and the imagery. I guess that's from your experience within art departments when working in feature films or adverts.
Yeah.
How has that experience influenced the every film you direct for Bagfly, for your upcoming projects before? How has that influenced your films?
I would say massively. I think that like whenever I'm working in the art department in whichever capacity, like you have me as that person. Like I'm not thinking about directing, I'm thinking about the look and the feel and whatever role I'm doing, whether it's as the designer or as a buyer or a prop person, whatever it might be. But yeah, I think it's hugely beneficial that I do have the directing experience because I just understand why a director might want to do certain things, and like what's important for a scene. In the same to flip the other way around, for example, like when I'm directing a scene, I've not done, I've not shot like a dinner table eating scene, but I've been on standby for lots of those. And as a result, I kind of understand what's useful and what isn't useful in terms of
Yeah,
cast and blocking and staging. And you just naturally, through being on set, you get things. I mean, one of the hardest things for directors is you're often the least experienced person on set. And, everyone has very different journeys, but I think through me having a lot of on-set experience, it's allowed me to understand how to compose myself, how to speak properly, how to um, how to basically just know how to present myself and also ask for things and not ask for stupid things.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if we're gonna like destroy something, that means that we're then gonna have to spend time cleaning it up. And I've definitely worked for other directors, especially early ones starting off, that don't really fully understand that their ideas have ramifications.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think it really helps both ways, I think. But yeah, I definitely recommend on-set experience, whether it's being a runner or art department or anything really. I think
Yeah.
it's hugely important. Yeah.
And I think as well, which can maybe have been more experience for you, is that at the start of 2023, I had a Directors UK mentorship with Lee
Yeah.
Haven Jones. Would you recommend this experience to any young and upcoming directors, and how did that improve your directing?
Yeah, I mean, I'd hugely recommend it. So Directors UK is a brilliant organization that supports British directors. It helps you get royalties. I'm not at that point yet, but if at some point when I direct some TV, they'll be the ones like getting the residuals and royalties to me. But what I did have some help with, as you mentioned, is the Inspire scheme, and they run it. I thought they ran it twice a year, but it maybe it's 3 times. I think it varies depending on like how much people are asking for it and stuff. But essentially, like you have to once you're a member anyway, you have to find a mentor yourself, and which is a good thing anyway, because there's like we can be quite lonely as directors, and I think it's really important to look for people to talk to about things, like it's easy to see each other as competitors, but at the same, like if we all rise up together, that's a lot more fun, I think. Um, but yeah, anyway, so like through there, I'd really love The Feast, Lee's film, which is a Welsh language horror film, eco horror vibes. And yeah, I'd messaged him and he was on a TV show at the time, but eventually we kind of got talking and yeah, he said he would be up for doing it. So yeah, as a result, I shadowed him on 2 ITV shows, so several days on each one. And yeah, it was amazing. It's just like whilst I had been on professional sets before, I'd always had to do a job. So, as the standby art director, you're very focused on your specific role. Whereas when you're a shadow and mentoring, you're forced to not do anything and you're forced to observe or you're encouraged to observe what the director's doing. And um, you can ask questions. Like asking questions is amazing because, it doesn't matter if the question's a bit dumb, like, you know, probably it isn't dumb, but you just might not feel comfortable. And
Yeah.
it was just an amazing place to like ask questions, learn, and just watch a professional like do some very challenging scenes. One was like I think a 7 or 8 page scene with maybe 4 different people across like 2 rooms in an office, which is amazing to watch because like it's that kind of long scene that makes and breaks a TV episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a hugely great learning experience. Yeah.
Sort of following about like influence and whatnot. What sort of moving image media has influenced your filmmaking and directing and given you this point of view?
Sure. I mean, what I've always loved sculpture. That's not really what you're asking though, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of sculpture and more like surrealistic painting. So that's been like that was like an initial foundation. But in terms of like work, like yeah, I mean, I've got like a massive list. I kind of write down everything I've seen, but not on Letterboxd because I'm trying to stay away from more social media apps. But like, yeah, I mean, uh yeah, I really love the movie Raw. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Well, I saw The Substance, which isn't out yet, but it's super mad and really fun. And while some people will probably really hate it, I love how like totally in she went with it.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I kind of like things that are a bit more like visually aggressive. Um, Somehow there's a lot of like teen stuff in there. But then also like I used to really love the movie Performance with Mick Jagger in it. It's like super strange and very 70s, but really cool. And and then like I don't know. I mean, my taste is like I try really hard to watch like really intense, sad films, but I end up just choosing things that are a bit more like fun and crazy. Like I used to really like more Michel Gondry and stuff, but these days maybe it's more like Ruben Östlund and things like that.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know. I think I watch most things, but I probably won't watch lots of historical epics or war movies or um yeah, I don't know. Everyone's got like a bit of a gray area in their Venn
Yeah.
diagram of like things they tend to watch. Yeah, that's my main thing. I can have a look for more things, but
And I get what you're. I can very see sort of your influence from the films you discuss, like those sort of visually aggressive and surreal type of films. I
yeah,
think
Love Lies Bleeding was also great, and full stop. Yeah,
I think as well, sort of going back, how you're saying you sort of first were shooting dramas, starting with dramas. How is your approach from shooting dramas for like your first sort of short film to now? How has that approach evolved, and how and what advice would you offer to young filmmakers based on your evolution?
yeah. I think what is brilliant about starting out, like I went to the Arts University Bournemouth for to study film. And what's great about being like a new filmmaker and like a student filmmaker, for example, firstly, I wish the academy was around when I was younger because I missed it because it just didn't exist or whatever, and it would have been such a cool thing to be a part of. But what's great about being like a new filmmaker is you've got like lots of new people around who are really excited and you can make mistakes that you can just decide to never show anyone and you can take more risks and do like weirder stuff or like less weird stuff but at least or like serious dramas that are like things that you've always wanted to do.
Mm,
What's harder is the longer you're around it firstly you want to pay people which
yeah,
which I always try to do as best I can. Every project's different, but like like the last one we paid as many people as possible. um but like it's it's just a hard thing. You just kind of because you naturally grow with other people around you, and as a result, like for example the people I went to university with who are still in film, like they're doing massive things now, so
yeah,
it's not like they're gonna like even if they wanted to give me a favor, like maybe they're on some like big show and it's totally impossible. So suddenly you don't have access to new exciting people.
mm,
They totally exist. It's just like you just don't know who they are. And there's something about studying together or like working on each other's projects that you kind of get a bit of a vibe of what someone's like. What's so difficult, I find, with heads of department is particularly on the shorts that I've done, you don't really get to like hang out with them beforehand. So like you might like totally love the DP or you might totally hate them, but you'll never know because until you're there on set with them and suddenly you're working, like the dream would be to like go for a few pints and like see if you actually like each other or um or just have a cup of tea, whatever it is. Um, yeah, so I think like being a newer filmmaker is quite brilliant. Also,
it really. Oh yeah, sorry, you continue.
no, I was just gonna say also like the big thing I think as well is that everyone goes on about how anyone can make a film, blah blah blah. And yeah, with the equipment like your phone, sure anyone can make it. Whether anyone will watch it is like a total other question, which people seem to forget about.
Yeah,
But I think being a new filmmaker, you could just make a feature with your friends because like unless you're paying rent and stuff, you don't really have as many obstacles. Like it doesn't really
yeah,
matter if you don't earn money for a period of time. Or like say you've got another job, like but maybe it's a weekday job and then you've got the weekends and then you as like a community can make something together. That's super exciting and it's something I'd love to do, but I've also gone so far in my career now that I would feel like whilst I want to do those things, I kind of want to do whatever the next thing. I don't know. It's like it's a hard
Yeah.
challenge to
Yeah,
balance.
I mean, I get what you're saying, especially like, it is good being a young filmmaker. And how you're saying you wish at the academy when you were sort of a younger filmmaker. I think that's such a good thing about being a young filmmaker is that we have so many resources here and
Mm.
workshops and these different schemes which will let you in. And especially the BFI is good for this. There's a lot of workshops the BFI provide and the Film Academy provide for young filmmakers just to get to know people, be on the same wavelength, and produce films together, which you might not have later on, in life, or might be hard anyway. That is a really good thing. I mean, a little bit of promotion there, but so
No, totally. I mean, but like through whether the academy or through whatever, you might find collaborators for life, which is what you really want, like
mm,
it's having been in the art department for 12 years, like all my contacts on the whole are art department related. And sure, I know some brilliant people, but in terms of like, if I want like a really brilliant sound person or something, they're not people that I naturally spend my days with.
yeah,
So being in like a more like general group is a great way to meet some lovely people for sure.
definitely. We're sort of wrapping up here, but what projects do you have coming up, and what can we be excited for?
Yeah, so as I was starting to talk about, I've started the edit of a new short, which is called Inebriated, and it's about alcoholism and demonic transference. Um, I was I was challenged by a sales agent to try and make a serious horror film. My last like more real, bigger, let's say horror film, is called Rhyme or Die, and five people wake up with murder collars and they're forced to rhyme or get brutally murdered. And as much as I love it, because it's all pretty much in rhyme, it doesn't exactly like show my can I handle people talking around a table, for example.
Mm,
And my earlier work was a bit more drama leaning. So I really wanted to like make a serious horror that had like a bit of a family drama element to it. So it's about a woman whose boyfriend is recovering alcoholic who's become possessed by a demon, and she invites around her parents with the idea of transferring a demon from her boyfriend into her high functioning alcoholic father, with the idea that he can handle one demon, so he could probably handle another. It goes terribly wrong. I still can't describe it in a way that doesn't sound funny, but it's not a funny film. Um, but yeah, I've had a lot of fun making it. We shot it in June and had a really brilliant uh, crew. I was supported by the Arts University Bournemouth. They've got an alumni fund, so they gave us some money, some camera lighting, and most importantly, students. And the students were brilliant and really brought the whole thing to life. Um, so yeah, that's what I'm doing, and then trying to get features made, basically.
yeah,
Yeah,
very
like
exciting.
like everyone.
I mean, that sounds like a really good idea. What's your social media channels people can follow you on so they can get like updates on the films, your
Sure,
next
it's
projects,
at Max R Lincoln. Um, the yeah, Max R
just on
Lincoln
everything.
on everything. Yeah, I've been lucky at managing to get them to be the same. I was Max Lincoln on one of them, but then, as I mentioned, my arch nemesis, he's had a few of the others, and
Good,
fundamentally, I just had to make a change. But what are you gonna do?
brilliant. Thank you for today's interview, Max. It's really really good, and I'm excited to see what you've got coming next.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So everyone, if you want to watch the film, just head to the video description where you can find a link to watch Bag for Life. And and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview and our other scene interviews, make sure to get your tickets for the Film Academy Day as well at London Film Festival, where more information and ticketing can be found in the description as well. And alongside that, with the Film Academy Day, us young programmers also got some events going on. So I've got an event going on, and few of our young programmers have events going on, discussing all sort of areas of film and curation. So please have a look. It will be down in the description. So I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you. So bye everyone.